What's up, everybody? It's your boy Season. So today we're going to be taking a look at the 00 Gundam 7 Sword G. So the 00 saga continues. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go. So let's see what we have inside. So of course, first we've got the manual. So that's pretty normal. Looks like we've got a stand here, or the base of the stand, I should say. With the stand there, looks like you've got some support pieces here. Looks like you've got the GN sword, or the top of the tip there. It looks like these are parts for the knees. You've got a plethora of hands. So we've got those. And then let's see what we got in here. Oh, I got it upside down. Let's see. Let's open this up here. So it looks like you've got the GN sword, one of the big swords. This one comes with a plethora of swords as well, but a lot of them are guns. So you've got the two mini swords there. It looks like you've got the GN drive up here with the gun there. That used to be a P Bandai exclusive for the original version of this. And then it looks like you've got, let's go ahead and pull him out. And of course, this one is brand new. So I was able to hunt this down brand new. I've actually wanted this guy for quite some time. I just never pulled the trigger on it. But so that's what you have there. So that is the 00 Gundam. So let's take a look at him a little more closely. So let's take a look at this 00 Gundam. Now, this one is one of my favorites. Now, you guys have heard me say ad nauseum that I'm not really a big fan of the Exia, but that was because I liked this one. And I would say that generally speaking, this looks really, really good. You've got the two GN drives there on the sides there. So you've got plenty of die cast in here in the knees and the thighs there. So you've got a lot going on. I like the decal work that they've got here. I would say that the head sculpt looks really good. The thing about the 00 ones is I really wish that they had GN drives glow. I think that that would kind of put these over the top. They don't really do that in the metal build line. They do for a few, but you see that more in like this new Chogokin line that they've been doing. So it's kind of interesting if they'll ever go back to the 00 suits. But I would say that it looks very, very solid. Now there's been a plethora of different releases for this guy as well. He's probably got about the same amount of releases as the Exia does. And I've seen the Trans Am version. I've seen a whole bunch of different versions, the 00 Riser, because this one was actually in the manga and not in the series. The 00 Riser was in the series. But I think that it looks really, really good. But I think that I'll be interested to put this guy through his paces. So let's take a look at the Gundam 00's accessories. So first up, we have the GN Buster Sword 2. This is his really big sword. So this does also extend, so you can extend this out. You can flare those out as well, and then you kind of open that up. So really nice looking weapon. I really like this sword. Looks awesome. If you're gonna have a sword, have a big one. Then we have the GN Blaster Sword 2. So you do have this. This used to be a P Bandai for the original 007 sword, but this does extend. This is a gun and a sword. So we've kind of seen that. That's kind of an evolution of the Exia, but you do have that. It does look like this will come out as well. So you do have a separate handle there, and you've got one on the sides here. But I think overall looks pretty good. If you ask me, looks like you've got a scope there. So that's what you have for the GN Sword 2 Blaster. So next we have the GN Katars. I think that's how you pronounce it. These will go on his knees. So these will be connected to the side. He kind of uses these like a short sword. So he does have that, with this being called the 7 Sword G. Of course, I expect to see quite a few swords. So these are the two that go on his knees. Then you get the two GN Sword 2s. You have a long version here. So you have a long version there, and then you have the short version there. So you can do quite a bit with these. Of course, let's go ahead and put the long one down. That's pretty self-explanatory, but with this guy, you can take this. You can actually modify this one as well. Take this off, and then you can put this on here like that. So you do have this version as well. So you can do quite a few things with the two GN Sword 2s. And then you are able to combine these together. So what you would do is just put these two in here, and you could have one long, one short, and put this one in here like that. And so you get that. So that's very interesting. So very versatile the GN Sword 2s are. Then you get another version of the GN Sword 2. So you do have that one. You can also put these on. You get two versions of these. So you can have that like that there. So you do have that. This does come up as well there. So it's kind of like a gun slash sword. So you do have that. You do get two of those as well. And also one last thing for the GN Sword 2. So not only can you take out the parts here, you also get a grappling hook as well. And you've got this little wire here and you can plug that in. And so you can get this wire going there. So pretty versatile for the GN Sword 2. So you get about 3 different versions of that, for the long one, the short one, and the other one. So you got those. Then you also get 2 beam sabers. Of course, that's pretty standard for most Gundams, but you do get 2 there. You get a little bit of blue parts there on the bottom. These will go on his back skirt. So that empty space where the back skirt was, this is where you will put these. And then you also get 2 replacement knees. This is something that I'm not used to seeing in the metal build, replacement parts other than like the V-fin. That's usually the only one that we get. But with this one, if you want the more traditional 00 Gundam look where he doesn't have the blue knees, you can use these and you can replace those. And then you also get a spare GN drive as well that you can put on one of the shoulders. So you get those spare parts. And then in typical metal build fashion, we do get 5 sets of hands. He does have the closed fist on him. He gets 2 trigger finger hands. So this is the first type, the one that has the slant there. So you've got that, you've got the other ones here, you've got the wide open hands, and then you've got the beam saber hands there. And then last but not least, we do have the base of the stand here. So of course you've got the markings for the 00 Gundam 7 Sword G with the model number GN-000G in HW/7SG. So say that 5 times fast. And then of course, like we saw with the Dynamis, we also get a weapons loadout as far as the different weapons and swords that he has. So that's pretty interesting. So let's take a look at the 00 Gundam's articulation. So first for the head, he will look up. So he's got a nice upward movement there, down. All right, we've got a little bit of side to side, not a ton though. So you've got a little bit there. Let's see if he can go 360. You may have to try to get all this stuff out of the way, but it looks like we can get it there. So that's good. Let's see if I can finish that. Yep, so he's got that. So that's what we got for the head. For the shoulder, now he's got this part where the GN drive is, so you can move this up and down. So you do have that. It will slightly rotate, so it'll go to the front a little ways. It'll go a little ways to the back, not all the way because that's where the bar is there, but you do have that. So, but the arms, he can lift this up. He can have this about arm's length. You probably could get a little bit higher, but because of where the GN drive is, that's gonna be a little difficult to do. And I doubt he's gonna be able to go 360. Like without this part here, if I could move this all the way to the back, you probably could. And if I took off the backpack, but that's only about as high as you're gonna get. So you're not really gonna get more than that, but that's not too bad there. And you do have some inwards and outwards. You don't have as much pull as the Estrella with the chest piece here, because usually that will move to kind of give you a little bit more articulation there, but you're not really seeing that there. For the bicep, it will spin 360, so that's good. Let's take a look at the elbow bend. So you've got a decent range there for the elbow bend. It's like you have a dual hinge here, here, and there. No movement at the forearm, so let's go ahead and move to the wrist there. So for the wrist, you do have up and down. So you've got real good movement here. It's not really the ball joint, it's this piece here. This piece here is moving up and down. So you do have that. You got a little bit of in, you got a little bit of out. For the chest area, it looks like you do have a little bit in there. See, not much back there, but you do have a little bit here. So you've got some breakage here on the sides. Do you have any side to side? Does not look like it. It's more the hips than the actual abdomen, so that's unfortunate. Let's see if we've got any 360 here. So I would say, looks like you do. Just have to kind of work it, make sure everything is out of the way, but you do have 360. For the waist area, he doesn't really have the traditional front skirts here. So, but this does move. You can't really move it up or down though. So it's just kind of spinning around there, but you do have a little bit of leeway here. Since he doesn't have the traditional front skirts, he's not gonna be blocked. The legs are not gonna be blocked here. So I guess that's good. For the side skirts, you do have that. So that will raise up and down. So you do have a little bit there. And then for the back skirt there, so as you see, there's not really much of a back skirt there. Doesn't really give you much wiggle room there, but these 2 slots are for the GN beam saber, so he does have those on the back. Now, when it comes to his hips, because we were kind of limited as far as the articulation for the midsection, but I kind of want you to see this so you can see how he goes all the way down there, but that is all the hips in here. So that is all the hips, and he can do it backwards as well, just like that. So all his articulation mainly is going to be in his hips. So that's going to kind of support the fact that we didn't get a lot for the midsection there. For the legs, let's see what we got here. So for the thighs, this does look like you can get it 360. Well, maybe not 360. I'll say 270 there. I don't want to scratch up the paint, of course, so I won't chance that. So, but it does look like you can get it pretty far there. Let's go ahead and lift that up. So let's go ahead and move this up a little bit. So you can kind of see he's got maybe about, I would say 110 roughly, maybe 115, not the best we've seen. Let's take a look at the knee. So we've got this part here, but we do have a nice V there. And then for the foot, as you can see, it doesn't really have a lot of armor around the ankles. So you do have an up there. Let's see, do you have down? Not really. It's more the ankle part here. So you can see that whole ankle piece that's die cast, but you do have it this way and that way. And of course, no give in the back heel. So that's what we have for articulation for the 00 Gundam. I would say that generally speaking, this design, if I remember correctly, this was the first metal build, the 00 Riser, not this specific version of the 00 Riser, but this was the first metal build design. I'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that that is true. And so it's kind of showing its age as far as its limitations, not getting much articulation in the midsection, I think is kind of disappointing, even though they do try to support it with having the hips being able to go up and down. So it's okay. Not being able to get 360 out of the legs is okay. You don't really need that, but you can get about 270. So that's definitely not bad. So I think that overall, considering that this probably was the first design for the metal build, I'm not totally disappointed, but it definitely is showing its age with all the different versions that they've come out with. I do kind of wonder whether or not if they ever tried to go back to this design and kind of update it up to modern times. Generally speaking, I don't think Bandai usually does that, but it would be interesting for this guy, because I will say that the joints on it are a little bit loose, especially considering this is new. I was expecting it to be a little bit tighter here in the arms and the legs. They're a little looser than I would personally like, but I think overall, I think it's still okay. So this is what we have for articulation. So now let's put all of these armaments on him and see what the 007 Sword G looks like all put together. So here we have the 00 Gundam 7 Sword G. Looks amazing. I love it. I love how this looks. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, you don't like the Exia because it has nothing but swords. Why do you like this one? That's a long story. But I will admit that I'm a little bit hypocritical. But the thing about it is, it's really, this sword is the one that I love. The Buster Sword, I love that sword. That sword is amazing. And this goes back to when I was playing Gundam Breakers. Gundam Breakers, you could customize your own kits, and I fell in love with this version of the 00. So I really like it. Of course we do. It says 7 swords, so we've got 2, 4, 6, and then I guess the beam sabers make 7. So there's your 7 swords there. I think it looks really, really good. It does stand up quite well on its own. Since it's symmetrical, meaning that he has so big swords on both sides, you don't really have any weight issues per se. So I really do like how it looks. I think that it looks amazing. Now there's a couple of things that you can do with this guy. Now I put the alternate GN drive on this one, and the reason why is because this has a hook that it has to go into. So let's take this off here, and let me open this up and then pull this out. So this is the one that has the hook, and this will rotate. So that kind of can give you the articulation that you need for the gun, so you can kind of have the gun up any way that you want, and you can kind of move it backwards if you like. So you can do that. So I think that that's really, really cool. And then also with the 2 swords here. So the thing about this sword as well is the fact that you can't have this connected to the back of the forearm. So really all you would do is you just pull this part out. So pull this gun part out like this, and then we'll take this, and then this folds in on top of each other like that. And then that connection piece can go there, boom, just like that. So you can do that. You can also do that for the Buster Sword as well. And then one thing I didn't go over in the articulation section is that this part here for the shoulder, if you want more articulation, you can actually pull this out. It's on a sliding track here, so you can get a little bit more articulation that way. Also, it'll move it to the front if you want to simulate the first showing of the 00 in Gundam 00. So you can do that as well. So that's really cool there. Now, I will say about this connection to the to this gun is that connection, I don't know if I like that connection all that much, just because I don't think it really sits in there flush all that much, because there's no snap. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now we've got it. It just wasn't put in there all the way, but you do have that gun there. You can also do the same with the Buster Sword here. So we could just take this, pull this out, and then this is connected by a clip there on the side of the GN drive. And then let's make sure we can get him to stand up here. And then what you would do is just take this guy, and then you have this piece here, and then you would just put this in here, and then make sure that that goes in there like it's supposed to. Boom, just like that. You do have to kind of put some force on that one, but with the Buster Sword, that's gonna make his arm pretty weak, as you can see, because this one's just so heavy in comparison to this one. This one's just a little bit more secure here, but you can do it if you like. I want to see if that arm will stay put. It doesn't look like it, and so let's move this up. Let's see. And then, oh, okay, so there we go. But I think that's because the back has been caught on this other sword here. So that's unfortunate, but but you can do it. So it is available to you if you want it. So let's go ahead and move that off. So I just wanted to show you that you can do that. So you can put this back on, and then it's what it is these two clips here will go into these here. Make sure that that GN drive goes in the center, and then that kind of goes in there. Doesn't really have any problem. Doesn't really add to the weight balance issues, because he really doesn't have any. It's just the fact that this Buster Sword is so big in comparison to even the gun there that it can be a little cumbersome when you put it on the back of the arm, because that arm, I don't know if that arm is going to be strong enough to hold it up if you wanted to do that. And so we got that guy snapped back in. So that's what you have for the 007 Sword G, and I like how this looks. So I would say overall, I really like how this looks, and his weight issues are pretty minimal. Let's go ahead and take this back off here. Now, of course, he wants to spread eagle as I'm kind of messing with him, but don't think that has anything to do with his die cast, even though it's a little looser than I would prefer, but it's really not that bad. So I'll tell you what, because now I've got it in there so secure I can't pull it out. So what we'll do, let me do this real quick, and we'll come back right after this break. And we're back. I was able to get it pulled off, but it just took a little bit more effort on my part. Now, one thing that I also wanted to go over, remember how I said in Articulation that this one doesn't really give you any upwards movement? It actually does, but what it is it is connected at this part here. So what I'm gonna do, let's see if we can pull that up. And so you have this connection piece here and here. And so that will give you a little bit more wiggle room on the articulation point. So I just wanted to point that out before I forget. So, but I would say overall, I'm really impressed with this 007 Sword. I love how it looks. This guy just looks immaculate. So what we'll do now is we'll do some posing. And here we have the 007 Sword in a kind of like a generic pose. I really like this. Now I will say that the Buster Sword, it is kind of hard for him to maneuver it because it is so heavy. So unfortunately the joints are not tight enough to hold that the way I really wanted him to hold it. But I think overall, I think that he looks spectacular. Being able to hold the GN blaster, I think is really good. So I really like how this looks. I think that this looks amazing, and he doesn't really have any problem. Now you do get the traditional connection piece for this guy, but you also get one of these. And so this, you can wrap this around his waist. This is kind of like, you see this a lot with like dolls or like hot toys and stuff where they kind of grab them around the waist. So you can use that one for this one as well, or you can use it for the Buster Sword when you have that posed out. But you do have those two options. But I think overall, he's not really overly heavy considering he's got all these swords and stuff. I would say generally speaking, most of the swords are light, so you really don't have that much of a weight issue. The only thing that's truly heavy is the Buster Sword. Everything else seems to be okay. So here we're going to do some comparisons within the Gundam 00 family. First thing I do want to mention before I get to that though, is that I think I said earlier in the review that you could not rotate this to the back. That's actually not true. You can rotate it to the back. It just doesn't sit flush there for the GN drive. So it does go frontwards and backwards. You just have to extend it. But overall, I just wanted to make sure that I covered that because I can't remember if I said that earlier in the review. But first, who we're going to bring out is matter of fact, let's go ahead and push him back a little bit so you can see. First one we're going to bring out is the Gundam Estrella. So of course that is the prototype for the Exia, and kind of we're going to go through the lineage here real quick. Then we have the Gundam Exia. So you do have him there. Then you have the Gundam 00 Quanta. Of course, that's minus the GN shield. So you have him there. And then you have the Gundam Devised Dynamis here. So overall, I think that the Gundam 007 Sword is good. Now, the thing is, he really does have a lot going on. So when you're messing with him, especially if you have all the swords on and all of that, a lot of that stuff as you try to pose him and things like that will fall off. So you just need to be aware of that. Overall, the only main issue I have with him is his joints. I think that his joints just aren't tight enough for the arms. The leg ones are okay. I would like them just a tad bit tighter, especially considering that this was one of the first Gundam metal build designs, was the 00 Gundam 7 Sword. So this is the very first Gundam metal build design that we ever got. So the fact that it still holds up all these years later, even though it's not this particular variant of the Gundam 00, that was the first one, but I still think that that's worth mentioning, that mold is the oldest. But I think overall, the Gundam 00 family is growing. Now, of course, like I said, there is no Curios and there is no Virtue as far as a metal build, at least not what we've gotten as of yet. And of course, there's a bunch of different variants, but we'll kind of go through all of that in final thoughts. But I think overall, I think that it looks really, really good. You can kind of see the evolution of the Setsuna suits. And I think that that's pretty cool to have, even though he didn't pilot the Estrella, but he did, of course, with the Exia and the 00 Quanta, and then now the 7 Sword. So I think that this is pretty cool. So now we'll get to final thoughts. So last thoughts on this guy, the 00 Gundam 7 Sword G. This is probably my second favorite design in all of Gundam 00. I have always liked this one. This was a metal build that I really wanted for a long time, and I just never took the chance of trying to find him. It was hard to find him brand new. You don't see too many reissues of this version. Usually the reissues are usually the 00 Riser. So I was very stoked when I found this guy brand new. Now, as far as some of his drawbacks, really he's only got one or two major drawbacks, and those are that the joints are not very tight. That was something that I noticed when I was doing the articulation portion, is that I thought that the joints were relatively loose, especially considering that it's new. Now, the thing about the 00 Gundam 7 Sword is that this mold, this is the original metal build that started the whole line. You did not get the other sword part. That actually came later as an option set. So they've been doing option sets for metal builds since the beginning. And there also is if you want to turn this into the 00 Riser, you can do that. There is a separate option set where it just comes with the 00 Riser parts, even though it's relatively old, and I don't know if the colors would match. I would actually have to do some research and find out if you could actually do that, but there is a way to do it. So you don't have to just buy the 00 Riser over. You could just get that option set and then you'll have both. So I like that. The joints are not as tight as I would like, and also the Buster Sword, for as spectacular as it looks, unfortunately, just because of its shore weight, it's hard to do anything without a support stand. And that's kind of unfortunate, because I'm not a fan of swords, but if I am going to have swords, I want big swords. And this one does that in spades. But unfortunately, the Buster Sword is quite limited as far as what he can do with it, just simply because it's too heavy. So you do have a support stand for it, but unfortunately, you're going to be limited as far as certain things that you can do with it. But those are really my only two knocks against it. I do like it better than the Exia, and I like it more than the 00 Quanta. Even though the 00 Quanta is my favorite design in all of 00, I think that this is a better metal build. Number one, because he doesn't have any gimmicks where like the armor has to come off. So the armor parts on this one are not loose. So you don't really have that issue that you have with the 00 Quanta. And I just like this design better than the Exia, but I would not put this over the Dynamis. I think the Dynamis, by far, out of all the 00 suits that I've reviewed, that one still is by far the best. And then I would give it to the Estrella, because the Estrella has a ton of options, just like this one does as well. But I think it does a little bit more with the Estrella than it does with the 00 Gundam 7 Sword. So probably give this guy probably like an 8.6. I think that he's good, but I don't think he's great. And I think that if his joints were a little bit tighter and he could do a little bit more with the sword, he would be in the 9.5 range for sure. I would put him up there with the Dynamis if that was the case, but unfortunately, that's not the case. And I kind of wish they would revamp some of these molds, especially the older metal builds, especially if you're going to release them. Now, this is still an old release, even by today's standards. So even though this isn't the first design of the 00 Gundam 7 Sword, this was kind of like a re-release, and they added the GN Blaster and all of that. So, but anyway, so that's what I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you can like, comment, subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate it. Send this one out to all of the Gundam 00 fans, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.